Hey guys, I want to do a video today on HOCD and all the fears and beliefs involved in it. What are the possible compulsions that are involved in HOCD, and what perspective shifts will help you take you towards acceptance a bit more. We've covered HOCD quite a few times on the channel, especially Elliot has done quite a lot of videos. HOCD was a big part of his OCD journey as well. It was one of his biggest themes, and you can check out his videos as well for that perspective as well, and how he went about it. I think one of the main things I want to highlight with HOCD is again this, and this goes for any theme that is related to sexuality or sexual desire, because then people have some more like taboo stuff as well, which is like incest OCD. People also have trans OCD and all those things. So anything that's to do with sexuality and attraction and who you're attracted to, I think there's a big part of identity that comes into play, because people get very fixated on the idea that no, but like this is who I am and this is who I need to be. I've always known myself to be this person, and therefore like I can't think or fathom of being something or someone that I've always known myself to be, right? Because fixating on that and then trying to think of the person you were and trying to get back to the person you were is where then our frustration and our fear levels keep going up and up and up, because obviously the more we try to get back to who we were is then like causes us even more stress because we're unable to do that, right? And then we go into compulsive cycles, we go into trying to control things, we go into reassurance and all that kind of stuff, right? And that's all because we're thinking this is not who I am, this is not who I am, right? A big part of this will be getting comfortable with accepting that maybe the person you were is not the person you entirely are now, at least. Maybe that was you then, and maybe you are a different person now, right? Because if you stay very fixated on the idea of that was who I am, then you can spend years just living in the past and analyzing the past and lamenting the past in a way. And I think even though I didn't have HOCD, but I went through this in some of my own ways, and that goes. I think this is for many OCD sufferers. So this is an important fear and belief to look at anyway. But like when you're really badly suffering and you kind of like lose track of your own life, you lose your own personality, and you kind of like stop recognizing yourself, because you're thinking and behaving in ways which you've never done before, and life used to be completely different and now it's completely different. It's like a day and night kind of difference, right? And that really just like is that's a very jarring kind of realization as well, to see that how much life has drastically changed and not for the better, right? And you start to also just like you start to really question like life itself, because it's like, who am I? Literally, that is how it is. Who am I? Like, I used to be this person and I thought I was this person, but now it seems like it's the complete opposite, right? So I used to be someone who was a frequent like book reader. Completely lost that when I was suffering with OCD. Then I used to love watching films. Lost that when I started suffering with OCD, because I lost the patience to sit through a film for an hour and a half and 2 hours to watch something. And more than that, I lost the patience or the ability and the tolerance to watch something that was dark and depressing and intense, even though those were a lot of the movies that I really loved watching before. And I would go to a bookstore and I would still try to browse books, and I would, at times compulsively, I would say I would buy a book as well so that I could test out how I felt about it and if it would instigate or inspire that, kind of that fire to read a book again. The same way I used to watch trailers of films and whatnot, and just to see how I felt and just to get like kind of like force myself to feel excited about it. But and I would feel excited about after watching a trailer or something. But then I mean, by the time the movie would come, obviously the excitement would be gone, because then I actually had to sit down and watch the entire thing. So I wouldn't do that. So there were so many different ways I tried to do that. I also did that with socializing, because I used to love like sitting down with people, having long conversations, hanging out with people, all those things. And I did that even when I was suffering with OCD. It's not that I completely stopped doing that, but but that kind of like, again, that absolute joy that I used to feel about socializing and hanging out with people kind of went out the window, right? So there was a lot of like in my mind, it was like, oh, but I want to be the person I used to be. How can I get that back? How can I get that back? And I think part of my acceptance curve was also getting comfortable with then the fact that I'm no longer the person I used to be. This is completely different now. Maybe I'm no long maybe I was a book lover, but maybe I'm not anymore. Maybe I loved watching films before, but maybe I don't the same way anymore, right? Not that I can't enjoy a good film now, but like maybe I don't anymore. So, and those were important parts of my personality, because those are, I mean, I'm a very without sounding pretentious, like I am a very like uh, arts and liberal arts and humanities kind of guy, and like someone who just like thrives on like creative output and and just like creative forms of productivity. So for me, those were very important parts of my life that used to, and a lot of my like just learning about life came from books. A lot of my learning about life came from movies, and those were very important parts of what used to bring me a lot of joy throughout my life. So it was, and then again, just as a person as well, I completely changed as a person. Even my friends at times were like, "You used to be very, very different. Like this is not the person you used to be. We want the old you back." Like some of my friends have literally said that we want the old you back, and that used to kind of like also be like, yeah, I also want the old me back, but I don't know how to get that right. And it felt like a big barrier. But anyway, so that kind of thing will, and I know with something like sexuality, it feels like there are higher stakes, right? Because it's like completely like a shift from wanting partnerships with one gender and then completely feeling like you are uh, liking someone else, right? People of the same sex, or even at, by the way, even gay people can have like the opposite fear as well, which is that fear of falling in love with the opposite sex, right? So either way, like whenever it comes to sexuality kind of thing, you have to be really flexible about it, and you have to be more accepting of the fact that you are maybe not the person that you used to be, right? And I know that sounds very terrifying right now, but when you really start looking at things from that angle, and when you also start to see how your thinking has been influenced also by how human beings in general operate in society, right? I think we all like to try and put ourselves in these boxes of personality archetypes, that even something like, oh, he is an extrovert, he is more outgoing, he is the more funny one, he is always like making jokes, he is the more caring one, he like people are putting each other, even like in circle of friends, like if you sit down with your group of friends, you will probably come across like same like similar conversations that you guys have probably had at some point, that oh, this guy is more like this, that girl is more like that, and those kind of things, right? And when we start doing that, we also do that for ourselves as well, right? And we feel almost like a need to kind of like quantify and just be like, okay, this is who I am and that's all. And can also become quite a self-fulfilling prophecy as well, because if you're someone who's like, oh, I'm an introvert, right? And then you get an invite do something, and you maybe even kind of want to go, but in your mind, because you're very fixated on that, no, but I'm an introvert, I like staying home and being by myself, and I don't enjoy going out that much, you'll also then be more inclined to turn that invitation down. And it'll become like a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is that, yeah, I'm an introvert, see, I don't like going out, and therefore I have to do this. And for other people as well, it becomes the expectation as well, and we don't realize how much of these like subtle ways of thinking then influence the way we're behaving. Um, so with HOCD, this is like a big part of it, right? Letting go of your old self. Your old self is gone. The you that is right now is the one that you have to deal with. And the problem is not even who you are right now. The problem is how you are reacting to who you are or possibly are right now as well, right? So getting comfortable with that idea. And then again, this stems off into all the reassurance seeking and confessing as well, because then people go online and they're like looking at stories and they're like, no, but this person also did this and this person also felt that way. No, but what about this and what about that? And asking people around them, like, hey, have you ever had, attractions towards the same sex? Have you ever had like something like this and blah blah? And then we're constantly checking and checking and checking and checking, and that becomes like a huge, huge, huge problem, because we always just want to make sure that was this is this real and is this not? That's what we're essentially then trying to figure out, right? And we really want to convince ourselves that this is just OCD, but of course we know very well that that question leads nowhere, and you'll not get any answer to that. The other problem, I think, the mental barrier that comes with working on HOCD then is also people thinking that if I start working on acceptance, and that means I will want it and I will choose this life and then I will go down this path and then I will no longer be who I am. So they, like, I've worked with people who have literally just coasted and not done the homework because they think that acceptance is going to take them to the life that they don't want right now. um, and so what you're then essentially doing is you're essentially putting barriers in your own pathway to recovery itself, right? Because and you have to also embrace and get comfortable with the uncertainty on that front as well, that even if like acceptance on this front led to you then choosing a life with the same sex, I mean, there's no way of knowing right now, but you have to take that chance, because life still won't be as awful as you think it is. And I think there are a lot of points of gratitude to have on that front as well, because you can easily have almost all the same joys that you do right now. It'll just be in a different way in a different format, but uh, it's still pretty much the same life if you really look at it. And at the end of the day, if it still come down to, yeah, but I just don't want it, yeah, that's not going to help you, because you not wanting it, like, let's think about it, like, you not wanting that life does not mean that you can then stop it from happening in a way. Like, if you take like a regular gay person, right, they're not waking up and being like, okay, today I'm choosing to be gay today, right? um they might not want it, but they're just going to be what they are in that way. So in a similar way, like, you can't then say that, oh, I don't want it, and then by not wanting it, I'll not make it happen, right? That's also an element of control, that there's that, no, but like, I don't want this and blah blah. So you really have to then be able to sit down and work on your beliefs and really work on accepting your worst case scenario, because if you're not even giving yourself that little bit of chance as well, let's say the chance is little, because that's how it feels when we're feeling quite hopeless about it. Even if the chance feels less, it's still a window of hope that you have for yourself. It's still an opportunity that you have, it's still an option that you have for yourself, in order to at least try and see if it takes you towards feeling better and bringing the fear level down. Because you'd rather be the person that you don't want to be than be chronically anxious and fearful for the rest of your life. It really would, I mean, you then really have to think about it. Is this the life that you want to choose for yourself? Being chronically anxious, feeling completely stuck in this, and then not having like any relief? Or would you at least rather have a different version of life more than you wanted? Like, something other than you wanted or envisioned for yourself, but at least be at peace with it. Doesn't that sound much better? And I think with this as well, this brings me to another point as well, which is people then thinking that this is not how my life was supposed to be. That sentence in itself can be the cause of so much suffering, because what you're then doing is that same thing in your mind. It's like, I had thought of my life that it'll play out in this specific way, therefore it needs to play out that way. So being very fixated on and obsessed with a version of life that you have thought about yourself, a plan that you've had, and you're like, the things must go that way, that is also the element of control that you're trying to have. It's also very irrational thinking and very rigid black and white thinking, because even if you, let's say you had some confirmation that yes, you were indeed straight, or you were whatever sexuality it is that you want to be. Indeed, you were that specific one. um, how does it completely shield you from other potential things that might throw you off your life goal? If your life goal is, let's say, that I want to settle down with a woman or a man, whatever, and have children with him and have a household and whatnot, um, there can be so many other hindrances that kind of like stop you from that. So it's not just sexuality that poses a threat, then it's also many other life factors as well. um, I've had family members who, by the way, chosen to remain single, even though they wanted or thought about romance and whatnot, but they've chosen to stay single because they had other obligations and responsibilities they had to take care of. And for them, they felt like if they married and if they had a partner or a family, they won't be able to fulfill those responsibilities. So then they chose that kind of life, right? And life did not turn out the way that they thought it would in their teenage years or in their 20s. It turned out very, very differently. So you have to be able to take that chance that life is not going to turn out the way you want it to. Um, and I think, and that goes for many OCD sufferers, to be honest, not just HOCD sufferers. Any theme that you have, it includes this, because again, that sentence that it's not how it's supposed to be is coming from this version of life that you've had very fixated in your mind. So, not working on acceptance is a big one. This is not how things are supposed to be is another one. There was something else I wanted to touch on as well. I think that's all I want to cover today for this video. I may make another one on compulsions, but let me know if you guys want any more perspectives or any more ideas of working on HOCD. But I think that these are some of the mental barriers and the beliefs that really hold us back with HOCD, because we become so fixated on this is just not who I am kind of thing, and I think that is the cause of so much disturbance that we then give ourselves over the sexuality thing. There's, I think, another like side to HOCD is also then people with HOCD who are currently in relationships or are married currently. I think that's probably like a separate topic that can go into another like 10-15 minutes of a video. So maybe I'll make a part two on that, HOCD in a relationship, because then fears of deceiving other people, lying to other people, manipulating other people, leading them on, all of that starts coming into play as well. Then it's like, oh, I need to tell them this big secret, but I don't want to lie to them. I don't want to be this and that, like all that kind of stuff. So, but that is part two. But I thought I would touch on this. Hope this helps you. Let me know what you want me to cover in part two, and I'll go over that then. Bye.